Good evening, everybody. October 24th, Hibbing Public Utilities Commission meeting is called to order. First item will be adds or deletes.
Thank you, Chair Hart. I'd just like to mention that the item 5D in consent has the final negotiated pricing in it now of $2,000 a month with AT&T Cellular. And then I would like to remove 7C HREC staffing date from the agenda. There's some good discussion items in there. I just want to have a little more time to discuss that at the working session on November 8th.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Is there any other adds or deletes? Hearing none, we'll move to approval of the minutes of the September 26, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve minutes and place on file.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Sandsted, support by Commissioner Babish to approve the minutes of the September 26, 2020 meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4 is the citizens forum. We haven't been presented with anything, so we'll move on to item number 5, the consent agenda. Item 5A, approve invoices greater than $1,000 and approve the bills and ACH transfers dated September 23rd to October 20, 2023. Item 5B, approve the payroll paid and overtime report for the September 21st and October 5th and October 9th, 2023 pay date. Item 5C, approve League of Minnesota Cities liability coverage waiver form. Item 5D, approve AT&T cellular site extension from 31st Street at 31st Street West and NW 169. Item 5E, acknowledge submission of the 2024 CDBG pre-application for Trunk Highway 69 water main project. Item 5F, approve request for contribution from Hibbing Blue Jacket Hockey Club in the amount of $250. Item 5G, approve request for contribution from Range Association, municipalities, and schools in the amount of $500. I'll conclude the consent agenda. Be the wish of the commission.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
We got a motion, Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Stoke, to approve consent agenda items A through G. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, we'll move on to item 6, which is financials and risk management. Item 6A, review approve September financials. Any comments, Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, as is always in this meeting, approve the financials from the month prior. This is the month of October, so we are approving September's financial, and that would complete 3 quarters of the year of 2023. And with that in mind, I'd like to turn it over to Russ Hissam from Baker Tilly to provide the update.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, and thank you, Commissioners, for allowing us to present to you. As Mr. Peterson said, the September financials are compiled by Baker Tilly, and that just means we take the numbers in the general ledger and put them in a financial presentation format that kind of looks like your audit report, but without the notes. The numbers are pretty solid through the end of September. And there's a few pages you can look at to get a flavor of what the financial health of the utilities is through the end of September of 23. So if you would look at page 4 of the compiled draft financial statements, this statement is a combination of all 4 utilities: electric, gas, water, and steam. And if you look about halfway on the page, there's a line item that says operating income, in parentheses loss. It shows that year to date, there's an operating income of about $150,000. That was there was a boost given in September with a gas refund from Connect, and that's allocated between gas and electric for generation and city gas as well. So in the positive for the year. And then if you look at page 7 of the financials, one thing you like to focus on is that each utility should pretty much stand on its own when it comes to rates and finances. And you see a comparison of electric, steam, gas, and water, where their operating income is year to date, about halfway down the line there. And even though there's losses in electric and steam, those aren't unexpected. They were right just about right on budget for the year. Gas is positive $2.1 million, and water is also a positive 350,000. And then the last area to take a look at is on page 8, and that is the actual compared to budget. So you see at the top, operating revenues are not too far off a budget for $23 million. $500,000 off a budget is not that much of a concern. And you see utility by utility, how they compare to budget. And for the most part, electric is over budget, but that's mainly due to depreciation expense, which is not cash, so not as much of a concern. Steam is well ahead of budget, and then gas is ahead of budget, and water is not too far off either for the size of the operation. So all in all, good, not too bad financial health for the 9 months. With that, I would take any questions for Commission.
I'm not seeing any, Commissioner, but I just wanted to mention that now with this 3 quarters of the year completed, this will be the working data that we'll need to work back and create our operating and cap budgets for 2024. We're looking at preparing some of those and presenting an initial draft the November working session for you all. It's been great having Baker Tilly's support throughout all of this. We also have invested a lot, as you know, in our internal financial processes. And having more folks on staff to deal with the day-to-day accounting at the public utilities while we still have a controller position open, and very pleased with the total results of everybody working hard through that. We're not only, profitable so far this year, which I think is the first time since 2004 that there has been an operating profit in the public utilities. We also know there's 3 months left of the year, so I don't want to get too excited about that. The work, though, that the team doing back in the office is much very helpful to getting us to where we are in providing the insight to the commission and to the payers that the investments that we're making are paying off. So with that, I'll mention just it's a little easier for the November working session when we'll get more in depth on this item as it relates to the next year's outlook.
Thank you, Peterson. Be the wish of the commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the finance.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Bill, support Commissioner Stokes to approve the September financial statement. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item 6B, review the Hibbing Renewable Energy Center budget and capital improvements update. First item, oh, wait a minute. We'll just start with that first, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. The item before you here, Commissioners, as we always do, we present the overall capital project for the summer work. There is mainly due to the Turbine 3 overhaul and some of the plant water system work being deferred to 2024. The reason why we have spent the majority of the budgeted forecast for capital or for those reasons. But if you turn ahead, we do have a couple items for your action, and one is to install some boiler isolation valves for their 2. And that would be working with Heckmovich Mechanical. I know I can't approve anything over $25,000, and so because of that, we would need your approval. And as you recall, Heckmovich Mechanical won the pipe fitting bid for 2023. So with that in mind, I'd like to recommend approving Heckmovich Mechanical for $28,800 to install the new non-return valve on top of the boiler and the other side as well, so we can safely isolate boiler 2 and work inside of it.
So moved.
Okay, and I'll support that. We have motion by Commissioner Stokes, support by Commissioner Chair to approve Heckmovich Mechanical the amount of $28,800 to replace the boiler 2 isolation valves. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6C, group purchase of wood poles from Dakota Supply Group in the amount of $63,735.96.
Thank you, Chair Hart. As the letter indicates, we are requesting purchasing approval for the inventory of poles. As you know, we have to replace poles in our distribution system, and some of these are for the fire department's new sirens that provide critical public safety alarms to the city in the event of a public emergency. So these are all necessary inventory additions, and because of the dollar amount of the purchase, it requires your approval. But just to be clear, these are for 12 30-foot poles, 36 45-foot poles to add to the inventory. And we are requesting to purchase this from Dakota Supply, who was the lowest quote.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanders. I'll support that. We have a motion by Commissioner Sanders, support by Chair Hart to approve the purchase of the wood poles in the amount of $63,735.96. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move up policy and governance. Item 7A, the Minnesota Renewable Energy Standard, RES for short, update. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. As we have mentioned in the past commission meetings, the state of Minnesota adopted a 100% renewable and carbon-free by 2040 standard to what's called the Renewable Energy Standard. This was the last year's statute. And historically, municipals have always been exempt from the RES due to how they're regulated. The majority of regulation was focused on large and owned utilities like Minnesota Power, Xcel Energy, and the like. But the new law does implicate municipals in some extent, and Commissioner Bliss and I were happy to participate in some of the commission dialogue. That's the Minnesota Public Utility Commission. It's the St. Paul version of the Hibbing Public Utilities Commission. It just encompasses a broader scope. What we talked about was the need to preserve obviously local independence and make sure that Hibbing has always been a leader in terms of renewable energy by being part of the first renewable energy mandate in the state back in 1994 with the biomass mandate. So we're an early adopter, and so far we've been able to do that without any overreach by a state agency to do that. So with that in mind, we want to make sure that we continue to voice our role in the state's energy policy, and I think the commission overall down there was very supportive of our stance. We kind of have a timeout until we figure out what the actual order was resulting from that, if we can really talk to our experience. But I just wanted to kind of mention that Commissioner Bailiff, I believe, was the first commissioner in the history of HPU that had actually spoken to the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission as a commissioner. And I just wanted to thank him for that opportunity. He did an excellent job representing the ratepayers of Hibbing and the residents of Hibbing for that. And just wanted to pass it over to Commissioner Bayless for what his impressions were.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. It was intimidating to be in front of the MPUC commission, but it was fun. We went down there and just kind of wanted to make a showing, make sure they heard who we were and why we were there. I made personal comments about some of the happenings and some of the things that were filed and led up to us being there. But my personal feelings aside, I think we accomplished the goal. Right now, we basically just bought some time, and we'll see what comes down the pipe. But it was a privilege to be there. It was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I might add, too, this is probably going to be the last time somebody from the Public Utilities Commission in Hibbing has to speak to the big brother to St. Paul. The way the energy policy is moving, we want to make sure that we can protect the interests of the local utilities to self-determine their own energy future. And, while we all support renewable energy, I think there's also a strong voice that Commissioner Bayless advocated for local independence. And those two things are not opposed to each other, as we can see by some of the next topics on renewable energy and biomass in particular. But, just wanted to call out that, times they are changing, I think Hibbing native have said, and, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that we can protect and defend the ratepayers of Hibbing for any changes that might unnecessarily complicate our work here, our ratepayers.
Thanks, Mr. Peterson. Well, the next item will be item 7B, Hibbing Renewable Energy Center's role in emerald ash borer mitigation.
Thank you, Chair Hart. If I could, would you mind coming up to the podium, because I'm going to ask you to present. Commissioners, you know, we contract our wood supply with Pallet, and we're kind of finalizing the terms of our multi-year supply agreement with them right now from our last request for proposals for that. And one of the great things we appreciate about Savannah Pallet is to kind of start a slow evolution around our expanding role in getting back to biomass. And as you recall, back in 2022, the commission approved the restorative utility plan, which is basically to leverage the existing assets we have here in Hibbing to not only save money for our ratepayers, but also to do right by the environment around us, and how do we kill birds with one stone, or how do we do both, save the environment and protect our local jobs. And one of these areas, and you know, could have been missed years ago, is that we now have this infestation of emerald ash borer that's going to be decimating a very, very long-standing stock of trees in the state of Minnesota. And Hibbing Public Utilities has the opportunity to work with the Department of Agriculture and Savannah Pallet to actually incinerate some of that emerald ash borer infested wood. And I kind of would like Al to kind of speak to the things that he's seeing his side and what this might mean for future operation here in Hibbing.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Peterson. Again, my name is Alan Rochelle. I'm with Savannah Pallets. We're a third-generation family sawmill and pallet operation with facilities in Cloquet, Reeder, and McGregor, Minnesota. And as Mr. Peterson had said, we are the primary supplier for wood biomass for the utility here. This is our second year. And our philosophy and our strategy is to utilize underutilized wood in the area and convert those into value-added products such as 2x4s and pallets, and use the residual material from that wood to supply the utility here. And we're doing that in partnership with local loggers in the area. And again, the phrase that I like to use is that we do not want to be cutting trees in the forest primarily for fuel. We want to convert those into 2x4s and other products first, and I think we've been successful with that. What Luke is speaking about is in regards to a emerald ash borer outbreak that has been recently discovered in Cass County. And that outbreak was discovered by Department of Ag employees within the last month. And as a result of that, they have put in an emergency quarantine for ash timber and related products coming out of that. I believe it's the northern zone of Cass County. And how we got impacted with it is our plant in Reamer is within the border of the quarantine area. And so because of that, we are working with the Department of Agriculture to put in programs that will slow the potential spread of emerald ash borer within the state of Minnesota. And at this time, it's my understanding that the majority of the outbreaks are in the southern part of the state, and this is one of the first ones that have occurred in the northern section. And again, at this time, it is an emergency quarantine. And again, it's my understanding that the Department of Ag will be holding public hearings within the next month to implement this as a permanent quarantine measure at that time. So, now, in regards to the mitigation procedures that the Department of Ag is going to put into place, is what they have determined is that all the ash logs or all the ash trees within the quarantine area can move within the quarantine area, and if they move outside of the quarantine area, they have to move under a compliance agreement with the Department of Agriculture. And again, because our facility in Reamer is within the quarantine area, all of the ash logs from that are harvested can come to our facility, but the regulated products, which would be lumber and wood residue, cannot move out of the quarantine area unless it's under a compliance agreement. And so again, we're working with the state right now to determine what that compliance agreement is going to be. But basically, it's a series of step procedures that would help mitigate the spread of it, slow the spread of the emerald ash borer out of that particular area. So now, again, because we are in the quarantine area and we are sending mulch and chip to the Hibbing facility, and the Hibbing facility is outside of the quarantine area, we are asking to determine if the Hibbing utility would enter into a compliance agreement with the Department of Ag so that they would be able to receive that material coming from there. And the key components of that agreement are that we would be loading our material into covered vans, and those vans would be sent to the Hibbing facility, and then the Hibbing facility would be burning those within a day or two period. And the key part of this is that the material in question would be limited to the time of year in which the emerald ash borer is dormant within the wood, and it would minimize any potential risk that the borer would then spread to other areas. Again, the fact that there is a emergency quarantine for ash does not limit ash harvest within the area, but again, they're just attempting to put in safe measures to slow any potential spread from that area.
Mr. Ag? Mr. Rochelle, thank you so much. Are there timelines for these compliance agreements?
Well, there are timelines in the sense that since the Department of Ag has put the emergency quarantine into effect, then any ash that comes into facility at Reamer from the quarantine zone cannot move out of our facility unless we have a compliance agreement with the state. And then also there's a compliance agreement to whoever receives that if they are outside of the quarantine zone. So at this particular time, since the quarantine has been in place for approximately 2 weeks now, we have not received any ash logs from the quarantine zone. And so there really isn't any material to deal with at this particular time. There are some issues that we're dealing with the Department of Ag in regards to ash logs we already have. And so, again, we're not moving any of that material from our facility until we have that agreement in place. Now, we have a Zoom meeting scheduled with the Department of Ag on Monday, in which we hope to have our compliance agreement completed with them at that time.
Mr. Chair? Thank you. As far as the emergency quarantine and the public utility considering entering into one of the compliance agreements so we can continue basically to do business, how are we on pause, like indefinitely until we have that, or should we enter into this agreement, we kind of continue business as usual without too much of a hiccup?
So at this time, we have material at our locations of which we're currently sending. So right now we have material primarily in our McGrath facility. We have some at our Cloquet facility, and then we have some in the Hibbing storage yard as well. So in the interim period, we're going to be able to supply the plant for whatever it needs. And then in addition to that, we will continue to be able to get material out of the Reamer facility, but it will non-ash product of which we're generating on a daily basis.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Who does anybody monitor your facility for this, for the spread, or do they do it parts per million of bucks within?
Well, again, at this time there's not an outbreak of emerald ash borer at our facility. They found this on a grove of trees alongside the highway. So again, we're not looking at emerald ash borer at our particular plant, but again, the methods or the procedures that the Department of Ag will put in place, and they'll monitor our compliance with the agreement. They just want to make sure that when we receive ash logs that came from the quarantine zone, that we isolate them within our particular yard. They want us to process those logs within a certain time period. The time period that they have identified is the dormant period for the borer, and what they would call a no-fly period. And so it really minimizes the risk that bug is going to go in. So those are the type of things the Department of Ag will monitor for us, and that'll be part of our compliance agreement that we have with them. So again, when the ash logs come in, we're gonna isolate those in the yard. We're gonna process those during this no-fly period, and all of the products that are resulting, coming from that ash log run, whether it's lumber, will be distributed in that no-fly period. So that is their methodology for trolling.
The reason I'm asking is if we enter into agreement, I'd hate to see the spread of that come up here through this distribution.
Correct.
of wood to
Under-
Hibbing's area. So I didn't know if they monitored it on the way out, or if they monitored the Hibbing site for it, or who did it, the Department of Agriculture or so, but thank you.
And again, the Department of Ag has determined that the best time to move that particular product is during that no-fly zone, and this is a method for them to control it. Now, bear in mind, there is an obvious infestation of ash trees in Cass County. And, the Department of Ag and the DNR want to maintain a certain level of timber harvesting. Think of it in the sense that if you have an infected grove of trees and you have live infestation in there, that the one way for them to manage that is to harvest those trees, again, during that no-fly period in which it's safe to do so, and then process those trees and limit that potential infestation. If there is no market to move those trees, they're going to continue to stand there, and then it'll be a inevitable spread of the emerald ash borer from that grove of standing infected trees. And so, again, the Department of Ag and the DNR is very, very interested in making sure that there are markets for ash, so that they can deal with any infestation that's breaking out. Now, a key component of that is the residue part of it. So, obviously we're taking in ash trees along with oak and birch and all of the others, and through that process, taking a round log and converting it into 2x4s, there's a lot of wood residue that goes with it. And that wood residue has to go someplace. And so if we do not have markets for wood residue, then we will not be able to take any ash from the affected area. And there will be no way for anybody to really manage that. And so again, the role that Savannah plays in that is, again, providing a market for those trees that are infected and then do have a place to go.
Mr. Chair. This might be for Mr. Peterson, or who wants to answer it. Should we enter into an agreement, what kind of oversight would there be on the utility? Is it basically you have to use this material within a specified amount of time? Or what happens if we, for some reason, can't use it by that time? What happens?
Yep. Excellent question, Commissioner. And, at this point, we're still waiting for that initial conversation with the Department of Agriculture. From what Mr. Rochelle has shared is that we'd expect it to be something focused on the operating procedures in our wood feed system, that we'd have to make sure that the wood doesn't escape, from that feed belt and is burned. And from societal perspective, incinerating is the best use of that to prevent the spread. What we would have to verify is that we're not mixing the quarantine logs, the quarantine loads with other loads that are stored for longer than a specified time. So there's more details to work out, and we'll present it to the commission for approval when we get just more information. I just wanted to broach this. It was a new topic, and as we had come up with this utility plan, we saw the utilities in the plant providing additional benefits on what we could contemplate at that time. And I'm not going to say that we have to do ash borer processing here, but it does kind of seem to fit with that, and also opens up, as Al said, additional markets of wood that our society is struggling with places to put them. And we all saw the devastation of the Canadian wildfires this summer and what that all means for CO2. I'm not going to talk about that, what that relates to our carbon mandate in the state. But the whole point is there's an opportunity for Hibbing assets and ratepayers' assets to best kind of help the region, but never do that if that puts our region at risk. So some of the conversations I've had is with St. Louis County Lands and Minerals, just to make sure that everyone's on board with these processes. Obviously they want to protect the local feedstock of trees, and so everything we would do would be with kind of broad consultation and everyone's input. But I think I wanted to thank Al for reaching out to us and seeing if there's a way that we can kind of partner on this. I think it's a good idea that we should keep pursuing, and look forward to working with the Department of Agriculture to really determine what exactly we're signing up for. But I think it's an interesting opportunity that we should keep pursuing.
Sure. Is there gonna be a quality difference between burning an infected product versus a non-infected? Like, is it gonna, do you understand what I'm saying?
No,
The thermodynamics of it?
no, there wouldn't be any at all.
No boost from the extra protein to the bugs. Sorry, bad joke.
Yeah. And again, we have to remember that the quarantine area is fairly large. They quite frankly just draw a circle around, the infected trees that they have discovered. But at this particular point, the trees are healthy. And we're, it's certainly our plan to take those trees and process them like we would normally do with any ash, and continue to make usable products out of them. And I can hopefully have the home for the wood residue that is a result of that process.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's actually a really good thing for us to be involved in, but I am curious, do you get a feeling that the Department of Agriculture is willing to invest funding into this? And the reason I ask that is I assume if we partake, we're probably going to have to make some wood handling system improvements in order to comply with.
No. We have already discussed the situation with the Department of Ag. We have explained the system that we have in place for delivering wood from our facility to theirs. They understand exactly what we're doing. They're fully on board with that is in fact the best thing to do. Again, those trees, do need harvested, and processing the wood residue through a burner system is the best way to handle it, to minimize the spread. The process that we have in place in terms of storing material, the wood residue on our site, putting them into trailers which would have tarp covers on them, delivering them directly from our facility to your facility, going through the dump process and into your holding bins, and from there, from the holding bins into the burner system itself. That is a very, very closed loop system. And so the potential for spread of that is very minimal. And furthermore, again, they have identified that particular period, which is the dormant period, which would be from October 1st to April 30th. That is the time frame in which we'll be processing all of this material. So again, to minimize it, and certainly there would be no expected changes on Hibbing Utilities' part to handle that.
Okay.
All of the work in terms of paperwork and administration falls on us as the shipper of the material, and quite frankly, it is really limited to, again, we're going to have our compliance agreement with the Department of Ag. We have to fill out a load ticket. That is a format provided by the Department of Ag that just indicates the date that material was shipped, and that it contains quarantined ash regulated product, and deliver it, and that would go with our regular paperwork to the utility, and the utility's responsibility would be to hang on to that particular piece of paper and potentially show it to the Department of Ag if they ask for it. So very, very minimal changes for the utility.
Thank you.
Just one last question. So when you say it's a closed loop, does that mean that this wood would not go into yard?
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the strictest requirements of it is that it can't be cross-contaminated with other clean or non-quarantined material. So it would have to go right from the truck into the fuel supply system at the plant. And it's been great getting to work with all on this so far, and look forward to continuing to have conversations with the Department of Agriculture and what the specific requirements would be for us. I think it's whether or not there's any additional facility improvements needed right now, we could certainly need them. And if this allows us to process more, the animal ash borer is certainly not going away this winter. And I think it's an opportunity that we should continue to explore, if Commission willing, to understand how best to utilize our assets to benefit the region. You know, so this kind of goes to show the benefit of the multi-use facility like we have, and how we can be part of the solution for the state's natural resources future. So much more to come down the road, and for everybody listening at home, we are not burning emerald ash borer in the power plant right now. You don't have to worry about your pine tree falling down or anything like that because of emerald ash borer. But just know that this is a way that Hibbing's assets can really help prevent and slow the spread of emerald ash borer. We also are participating on a work group with the city led by Betsy Olavanti, and I believe Miriam Caro is doing some grant writing for ash species and urban tree management within the city. So very complimentary. Oh, and I wanted to also mention, for those of you at home, you know, a pretty big brush pile over at the recycling center right now. And that brush pile will be starting to get smaller on Wednesday, or no, Thursday.
Actually, I just heard today, the planned date for grinding will be on Monday.
Okay,
So we're gonna be hauling in equipment starting on Friday, and then do the grinding on Monday and stay until that is completed, which we're anticipating the end of Monday or possibly half a day Tuesday.
yeah, well, and that's great. Another example of partnership with Santa. Obviously, in the past, that brush pile got smaller when it got lit on fire and it burnt for about a day. This is the first time that it's actually going to be burned up and burnt in the power plant managed. So we're hoping hope this goes well, and we'll learn along the way as we always have together. And we're also hoping for a post-holiday season Christmas tree burning fest in January time or so, so that the city's Christmas trees can also be better used to the benefit of electric system and steam system. So just a huge thank you for the city for partnering on our wood yard, and Commissioner Stokes was involved in that early on with John Sporer and Pete Hyduke at the time when he was term administrator, and Commissioner Bayless, Councilor Bayless. So, you know, a lot of good partnership here, and look forward to continuing it, and grateful for your support, Al. And we'll be back in touch, and happy to report on the grinding.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you, it was very informative. It's not an action item, right, Mr. Peterson? It's just information. Okay. So that, we'll move on to the last few items. If there's any old or new business any of the commissioners have.
I just had a quick question. Can you, by chance, give us an update on the 12th Avenue steam repair that's going on there?
The one right by the courthouse?
Yep.
Yeah, it's been identified for a while, and you've seen it there. I believe we're waiting on some contractors and some pieces to be able to put that repair in. I don't have a date when it will be in though.
Do we know if they hot water right now? Because I think the issue was it was going to be shut down for a day.
Okay.
And now it got extended a day. And I'm just curious if those people have hot water after that.
You know, I haven't heard if they haven't. I apologize, but let me look into that.
Check for me,
Okay,
please.
certainly will.
Yeah, I look right down my street and I see where it's at, and I know those people on 12th on the east side of it there didn't have hot water for it, and now they got a note saying that it was going to be out until at least tomorrow. So,
All right, I wasn't aware of that. I'll look into that, Commissioner.
Any other old or new business?
Mr. Peterson, could you give us a little update on what happened on 25th Street? Brand new tar put in, and all of a sudden they put in 2 new valves and maybe even 3, it looks like, but
This is for the hydrant replacement project. As the commission is aware, we have approved, placed priority hydrants within the city of Hibbing, and we worked with the fire department to determine the priority hydrants that needed to be replaced. It is very unfortunate that the blacktop was put down before the valves were installed. And it's something that we're working closely with the city engineer to align projects and coordination better. Working together is really the best solution, and we're just like burning biomass. We're not going to be perfect at it right away. That's another example of a missed opportunity to plan. And and as much as we know that we need to keep our blacktop clean and uninterrupted, we also know times there's things below the blacktop that probably are also urgent and need to be addressed. And getting the right hand to talk to the left is, you know, I think it goes both ways. There will be some collateral damage along the way. Rest assured, we'll work as hard as we can to make sure that there's no impact to the people on the road. We forward to gradual and incremental improvements, and hope to report in the future we're never going to have to do fresh blacktop. But you know, the way it works, we can't predict where our leaks are, nor our things. And when we work with the city and determining the right place for fire hydrant repair, you know, sometimes the roads get paved first, and we should have prevented that.
Our GIS system should prevent this in the future as we move forward.
You know, that integrated system planning is something that if we were all working from the same playbook, it would be a lot easier to make our plays coordinated.
Thank you.
Any other old or new business? Not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
By Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Stokes to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.